Welcome to Body Science HQ, the world of fit, happy, healthy. And today I've got three really interesting people sitting on the couch here. One is currently in the middle of doing something insane. The other one has just recently helped someone else do something that was really insane. And the third one is Luke. Luke's my mate. He wrote the book Stress Teflon, and he's really does a lot in that mental health space. And we're going to start with Alex. You're walking around Australia for mental health.
Yep.
Trying to raise awareness, raise some money, but what you really want to do is touch a lot of people on the way. Can I sort of ask, like, I've known you a long time. We've travelled overseas together on surfing trips and stuff. You were pretty much a pretty fucking selfish human. Like, I mean, like, you're all about your abs and
straight away.
And your fitness, and like you were very much an influencer in the vegan world.
Yeah.
No, we're not denying any of that.
No. That's why I kept it on. I could have deleted my Instagram.
Couple of scrolls on your email. I can see how many ad shots.
I just realised it's the same Alex.
It's that Alex.
Yeah, he looks different.
Alex.
He looks
He's
different.
got that whole Castaway Tom Hanks thing going on.
Yeah.
Well, he's what are you? 50 marathons into your trip?
Oh no, just over a month's worth, pretty much.
30.
Yeah.
About 30 marathons you've walked so far.
Yeah.
So you're
I'm
on
a
the
shadow
Goldie.
of my past self. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we'll talk about that more. And Matt Palmer's here. Matt is the other half of Bonnie, who wrote the book The Girl Who Touched the Stars. She's the crazy girl that's been on here before that paddled around Australia. What I realised was Bonnie did all the paddling, but you did a lot of the hard work too. And that's why you're on here, because I wanted you to have a chat, because I spent last night with Alex and I realised that, how do I say this nicely?
Logistically, I'm unprepared.
Yeah, I had much different words, but yep, that's what it is. Like I thought, you know what? And I reached out to you last night and said, "Yeah, I'll come on and have a chat about what we did, what we had to do." And like Alex is about to walk the top of Australia.
Yeah, I think it actually really excites me, knowing the mistakes that you're going to make, and what's coming up. But that's the beauty about this. A little bit of naivety is nice. So
well, like it comes back to my catchphrase for life, which is thrive in the ambiguity of existence. But also the catchphrase for the walk and the ethos that I'm embodying is wait one more minute, take one more step. And I feel like that's all you can ever really do. And when a hurdle comes up and chaos is presenting itself to you, all you have is the fundamental presence of life to deal with it along the way, right? Totally. And it kind of gives you that fulfillment that, I mean, I so desperately want in life, but I feel like a lot of people need as well. So
do you think the naivety probably keeps him in the moment a little bit better?
Definitely, because I think if you know what's coming, you're probably a little bit more concerned about where you lose your presence, and a little bit more concerned about what's coming. So I think the beauty about, even though Greg's a planner and I'm a planner, I think there's definitely things that you can add to, whether it's people or resources. Definitely things you can add, sticking to true to yourself and what you're trying to achieve, but a little bit of naivety about what's coming, whether it's weather or animals or people, or media and social media. I think it's a really nice thing for you to have to lean into.
So Matt, you gave your life up, or did you complete your life? I don't know which way I should say this, but you gave what was your normal life up for how long for Bonnie to do the paddle?
Oh, essentially, easily, a year and a half to 2 years.
But it says 254 days.
Yeah, from prep to even post paddle. We're still fumbling through the assets that we're trying to create now. So it's been a journey. I've got some work and my other passions are back on track. But yeah, no, it was all worth it. But it definitely reading the book, there was definitely some challenges that come with that.
Yeah, the first chapter in that book really sets up what was happening. Like that was my favourite. I read that going, because I've sat there and I've watched your doco. I've spoken to you guys at length about it, and I thought, yeah, I just could never do that.
Yeah,
it's not in me. Like it's just. And then when I saw Alex's Insta and I watched him walk one night, and I thought, that's a broken human. Like he is broken. And I reached out to him. I didn't know if he had a support crew, a car. I didn't know if he had film crew. I didn't know what you had. And it was just him walking up beside Australia. And I just went, that is so not the Alex I know. Alex, you're a beautiful, caring person. Don't get me wrong, but you're very much driven by.
Prefaced with selfish in the first sentence.
Well, let's open your Instagram up now and have a look.
Yeah.
We'll ask the three boys here what they think.
Look, mate, it was the marketing tactic to get people on the vegan train. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get what you're doing and where you're at, because you're also an ambassador and athlete here for when we had our vegan ranges that were
yeah.
growing dramatically at the time. So my big question for both of you, and probably if you can go first on this one, Alex, is why did you both pick mental health?
Yeah, so it'll get deep really quickly, but essentially, as a child, I had a pretty tumultuous childhood. There was a lot of physical and emotional trauma in my life, and it made me develop from a young age mental health issues. So from about 16 till I just turned 30 the other day. I know I look quite weathered at the moment, but less so now that I've had a nice sleep in not Greg's bed, but Greg's spare bed. No, so there was a lot of navigation for me as a young kid, and it was more about managing my own mental health. So I developed essentially what is OCD, not the Hollywood OCD, which is everything needs to be perfectly in line and whatever. It's OCD with rumination, compulsive thoughts, and obsessive thinking on one train. Could be a loop of one thought for a year, all right? And it's all in your mind, so it's not really like a physical, which is a lot of mental health issues. It's not a physical attribute. Like no one looks at you and go, okay, they might be struggling. And I think that's something that it should be really touched on. Like no one ever really knows what someone is going through. So that leads into why you just need to treat everyone with kindness and compassion. But yeah, so I've struggled with that for a long time. And then having managed that, I kind of am quite existential in my own self. But I got to a point where I'd say this time last year, I was doing a lot of long distance running, and I remember just breaking down on my runs and crying. Like I was crying for 15 kilometers, running around and over 15 kilometers, just bawling my eyes out. And I remember the day very vividly. Like I sat at Kendall's Beach, which is in Kiama, which is where I live, and I just sat on this bench, and I didn't want to exist. Like I've had suicidal tendencies for a lot of my young life. And it just came back to me, and I just said, I don't really want to be here, and I don't want to be doing this, but what could I use this energy for? And really all I could think was I want to help men that are in similar positions that I'm in, and I want to remove myself from the equation to have that power to actually try and make a difference in other people's lives that may be struggling in the capacity that I was struggling at. And I guess that's the premise behind the walk, and I think it is something that's super, super important, because like I said, you can't see whether someone is struggling or not. And then that leads into the ethos of the walk, which is just wait one more minute, take one more step, because I truly believe that's what it comes down to. If you can remove the expectation that's thrust upon you from society or yourself or your parents or whatever it may be, and just bring it back to taking one more step, doing the next moment, whether it's the next day or the next, get through the moment until lunchtime, for example. That's what I'm really trying to bring everyone back to and bring their awareness to. And I guess the other key words you could say is slowness and simplicity. I think that's really fundamental in this modern world, very fast-paced world where everything moves so quickly. And yeah, that's essentially the reason. I mean, they got very deep very quickly. I'm not someone that's opened up a lot. And Greg, when you reached out and said that I could come to your house, I apologized because I kind of dropped off the face of the earth. And like Greg said, we do have a great relationship, and I'm very grateful that we've been able to share this time together. But had a good relationship, and yeah, just out of self-preservation and I guess isolation for my own mental health struggles, I just completely avoided any relationships I had just to work on my own health. And I mean, you were very accepting of that, but I feel like a lot of people go through that, and I feel like we need to make it more okay to say, look, mate, I need to take some time off from my responsibilities and heal myself, essentially. So yeah, that's the reason in a nutshell as to why I'm doing the walk.
There's something really cool about that. I'm going to back it up a little bit, if that's cool. There was something really cool about you sat there, you'd run 15 laps around and crying and really stressing about that sort of stuff. But then you said, where else can I put this energy? And there's something really cool. One, to have the awareness first that fuck, shit's not going my way and it's not really good. But then I have options now of where I can put this energy. And I reckon that's really, really cool, because any change we want to have, we've got to have awareness, options, and then actions. And you've done all three of them. You've had the awareness that, shit, this isn't how I want to be. I now have options of where I can put this. And those options are going to keep changing. You're going to get heaps of them. You're going to walk around this bloody big country, so that you can have a lot of options.
Yeah.
And that, those tools about being able to stay in the moment, but also that not having to go down this thought process that I'm going now, I can change it. I think is really, really cool.
And I guess, like, again, people watching the walk, kind of encourages men that they can make a radical change and redirect their life, because a lot of the times they might not want to exist where they currently are, but they do have the power to change that. And it comes back to the awareness of self and knowing, well, maybe I do have the power. I can take my health back into my own hands and maybe try and do something about it. So yeah, that's...
How do you go with the idea that I've had these mental health issues since I was pretty little? How do you go with not sort of making that part of your identity, that I can have mental health issues, but they don't have to be part of me?
I think it's something that I talk to a lot of people about is like attachment. I think it's really good to have zero attachment to anything, because life is so transient and we're constantly metamorphosizing into a different self, right? So I'm different from when you first met me this morning.
Completely.
And I think that's a really good way to live your life, and you can never be attached to who you are or what you believe in and your opinions. And a lot of reasons why people debate is because they're so attached to their opinions, but it's just an opinion. You can't really make that yourself. So I think all you are is wherever you are, and wherever you are isn't necessarily your past history. So for me, I guess being unattached to whatever mental health struggles I've had or what I manage comes through just remaining present in my current situation, I guess.
Do you find yourself on your walk, because you're walking, 50 Ks a day?
Yeah, 40 to 50.
40 to 50. Do you find yourself crying at any stages during your walk?
Yeah, massively. So I'll go through periods of, like, it's like a roller coaster of emotions. It seriously is, which I'm sure you would have experienced too. It's like sometimes for an hour I'll just be crying. And then sometimes, and I walk with this stick
It's
behind
not because
my
you
neck.
can smell yourself, or you're actually physically...
But I can't smell anything. I kind of like it. It's like
I'm
your own
telling you,
scent.
there's a
You know,
smell
like,
yesterday when I picked him up. It was something big. At one stage I thought, I know I
Your mates who can tell
Oh,
you.
it-
I
You
know
know
I offered
it
to
is.
pick this guy up, but I'm not actually sure that I want him in my car.
yes. Yeah. No, but then there's other times where like Fatboy Slim Praise You comes on and I just start
Yeah,
walking
nice.
down the side of the road, like absolutely grooving.
In complete bliss.
Yeah, in complete bliss. And I'm like, wow, why couldn't the past 10 hours have been like this? No, but it's good. And I think the other thing, while I'm walking, like I wave to every single car. Even when I'm on the highway, I just literally wave and make eye contact with every single car. And it's kind of like the message that you never know what a wave and a smile might do to someone.
Yeah, nice.
But also it brings you out of the equation again. It's not like I'm just walking, I'm in suffering, I'm doing this.
Yeah, get out of the I'm zone.
Yeah. And it's merely just like, hey, let's all be happy together kind of thing. And I think that gets you through all those moments. But yeah, the catharticness of crying while walking, unbelievable. I feel there's a lot of subconscious energies that can move through you during a long, extended endurance activity.
Totally, and backing up to the question from how the two of us went on the mental health charity journey. And it's probably completely different from Bonnie's angle. It was very in the thick of COVID, and we all experienced some different feelings that we'd probably never experienced before in COVID, depending on where you were in the country or in the world. So that was obviously one of the topics that hit the accelerator in society, was people having more self-awareness about them, sitting with themselves, not busy with life or work or community sport or anything like that, where we usually might take our attention away from how our actual health or physical and mental health might be. So that was probably from our end with Gotcha for Life. We went more, I guess, specific with the Gotcha for Life charity, and Bonnie being such an athlete at heart. The theory about mental fitness for Gotcha for Life was something that really sat with her and resonated with her. So for having been involved in that space, I probably had more experience in that space than Bon in the past, but the ability to recognise it as how can we build tools to make your mind fitter and your mental health fitter, mental fitness, that was definitely why we took on that path. So but thank you firstly for sharing your past and how it's going to benefit you on this journey. So don't for one second think that I'm not sure how you are, but in the sense of that you're trying to not run away from it, or you're trying to like adapt it or develop it. You've got some amazing tools with some of the experience that you've had. So utilize that, because I promise you, man, that will help you through this big country we have.
Yeah, and I think just to like reiterate that it's something that I struggled with a lot, just even opening up and sharing my story. Like I think for even my mum for many, many years until I reached out and said I'm really struggling, I need help. Was something I struggle with, and I know a lot of men struggle with. And yeah, for anyone listening as well, I think it's just important just to start by saying just the simple "I'm not okay."
Yeah.
Just for one, you don't need to express everything. You can take time to do that. It's your story, it's your path. But I think just approaching that first is the first step in allowing you to even just understand yourself a little bit more and understand those tools that may be beneficial for you. So yeah.
Look, if I do say I'm not okay,
Mhm.
that's really cool to acknowledge that. What do I do next?
I think trying to find the person that you can say that to and feel safe and feel non-judged, and to be able to just tell someone how you feel. Often that can be enough in a lot of stages, just to be able to be a little bit better from that. But to not be judged by it, I think, is probably the biggest thing. So to be able to sort of say, okay, I've been through this, I'm having this mental health issue at the moment. And whether it's a state mental health issue, as in like I'm just really sad at the moment, or a trait issue, which I'm really, deep, hole of depression, or I've got, some sort of anxiety disorder. Whether it's a state or a trait thing, probably doesn't matter in that initial state. You just need someone who you can talk to, who's going to love you for who you are and be okay with that. And I think the way we're going with that, the way society's going, we're pulling away from things, and we're getting these sort of, I call them like pseudo connections. We have pseudo connections on things like Instagram and Facebook and all of that sort of stuff, and makes it feel like we're not alone because we get this little dopamine hit of likes or that sort of stuff. But are we making true connections with people? And I think one of the issues that I think you're going to struggle with trying to do this on your own, which Matt's probably alluded to with some of the things that you need your tribe, is that you're going to need people around you at some stage.
Well, the funny thing that Greg, great question, because this leads into the power of strangers. And I think the power of strangers is super, super important in terms of being able to open up to people. Because strangers don't really know you, so how can they really judge you? They don't know your past. And along this journey, I've met that many people that have just sat down with me. I've shared with them, they've shared with me, that they haven't necessarily been able to get off their chest before. And I think it's a super powerful tool that a lot of the times, yeah, you're right, we will feel judged. And so I think it's important that people can find that person that they may be able to open up to. And yeah, I had another thought, but it's already out of my head because my brain's
Were you
a little
about
bit
to tell
fried.
the solicitor story?
No.
No, you weren't. I thought you were. Like last night, you mentioned this really crazy story.
Oh, the bloke that joined me.
The bloke that joined you,
Yeah,
like he
finance
just said, "I'm
dude.
going to jump finance, sorry, not solicitor. I'm going to jump on this walk because I need a couple of days to work myself out." And your journey was hilarious.
Do you want to tell it?
No, you can. No, definitely not. That is not for me to tell. But
No, it was good. So essentially, the premise of the walk as well is to invite any man to join me, any man or woman, doesn't really matter, to join me along the walk for as little or as long as they want to join me for. And I met a dude in Nelson Bay, and I needed to get across the river, and he had a little tender on the back of his boat because he'd just been living on a boat for a year. And he kind of said, I've been in the business world for a long time, but I really want to go into the personal world and the personal growth and individuality that he wants to explore. And everything that I was saying to him was really resonating. And he said, yeah, I want to come and join. And I was like, sweet. So he took the rest of that day to get him some supplies and organize his pack and whatever. And the day was Hawke's Nest or Tea Gardens to Seal Rocks, which is like 48, I think it's 48 Ks in total, or maybe just over. Yeah, but like
Up and down.
soft sand walking.
sand.
So it ended up
sucks.
it ended up being, I think, roughly like 44 Ks or something like that
yeah,
of
the
soft
big
sand.
Stockton stretch, the sand dunes. Big
And
stretch,
it was gnarly. Like it was seriously like a crazy walk, and then it was pelting rain for maybe 8 of those hours. Anyway, we took our shoes off because the sand was so soft and so uneven that it was actually easier in bare feet. And so we tied our shoes to our bag, and me thinking, oh, he's a sailor, he should know how to tie his shoes to his bag. I didn't think twice of it. And halfway, well, not halfway,
Busy mind, busy mind.
4 hours into, well, the rain journey, I just looked at Andy and said, mate, like you're missing a shoe. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, well, there's a shoe gone. Where is it? And he just looked around and he's like, contemplating for a second to walk back for a bit, and I said, no, we're not walking
backwards.
Anyway, and we just accepted it, and then about an hour later I said, the other one's gone. Where did it go? Yeah, which was a wild journey. And then we had to press on into the night. We rocked up I actually had this blister pop, which ended up being a
you
big
should see
kind
his
of
feet.
soft tissue damage, eating away, almost forming an abscess in my foot. Anyway, we managed to get to the campsite, set up in the pouring rain. So it was a wild journey. And then the next day, got up, had to sort out his shoe situation, and get to, where did we get to? Oh, Foster. But yeah, it was a wild journey. But yeah, good one nonetheless.
Yeah, just some of the things that happen. And I mean, Matt, from your perspective, Bonnie was going around the outside of Australia. You were driving the inside of Australia on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep. What, because I've spoken to you a lot, I've got a fair idea, but what was it really like to take off and know, shit, I don't know what's ahead of me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm planning for a team of 10 people?
Yeah,
Eight people?
Core team of 5.
Yeah, team of 5. And you were all about supplies, boats. How did you actually even contemplate every morning what you were going to do?
I mean, I did my best.
Yeah.
First off, I definitely didn't have a template. I gave myself the opportunity to utilise skills that I've learnt in sport, in business, in teamwork, in personal development, and everything along those lines to try and do my best to research where we needed to go, guess where Bonnie might get, which is an A plan, B plan, and a C plan.
Yeah.
With that comes, preparation in food and water, and having an understanding about, if we do get to that point, and wherever that might be, how much sunlight do we have left? How much? And usually there was lack of. After 15 hours a day, the sun only lasts X amount of time, especially through winter. But from on the east coast, it was pretty point to point to town to town. But as soon as you get past the very, we think it's so big, the coast of cities and whatnot. As soon as you get out of that world, it turns really, really quiet and really, really slow, and it's just you and your decisions. So that was, I've developed over time. I definitely developed over time. I come very solutions orientated, so big problems only turned into, either is it a little problem or a big problem, and from there, how can I find a solution? I probably would have sat with things in the past and maybe got a little bit frustrated or got a little bit, emotional. And when you get emotional, your IQ goes through the floor. So you don't.
Was there a bit
stop
more
thinking.
acceptance as you got further?
Well,
into
yeah,
it?
I guess you just knew as well that it is what it is, and what are my options, and that could be health, that could be border closures, that could be between different vessels, that could be no boat ramps to sharks to reefs to things like that. So I came very solutions based, but yeah, I didn't have the tools at the start, but I definitely developed them over time.
Because what a lot of people probably still don't know about what you and Bonnie did was you didn't actually own your boat or have a boat.
No.
You had to go to, mate, tell the story.
Yeah, so essentially, there was no template for this. So we had an understanding, wind right back. I even think I sat with you, Luke, in your garage and said, this is our plan. We want to go chase these sponsors. We want to try and get this, and this is a bit of a budget. I think we naively had like a budget of like 50 to 100 grand.
I had a genuine giggle when you told me your budget.
Yeah.
For
So,
how far you had to
and
go.
you're like, yeah, it might go over a little bit over that.
I've seen Luke's budgeting, so you're in trouble if he's telling you.
So we actually, we went 5 times over that, and still going. So we had to source. If Bonnie was going to do this from a high performance aspect, it was people in the past had done this. They'd similar to yours. They'd paddled there 30 or 40 kilometres.
Very stupidly raw dogging
stopped it in a location, camped on the beach or camped in a community, and hats off. But Bonnie wanted to do this from a high performance and push herself to the edge of the earth in the sense of how far she could paddle and for how long she can make that happen. So, the furthest she'd ever paddled in surf lifesaving or our ocean paddling career was the Molokai paddle, which is 50 kilometers, 52 kilometers, and day one was Mermaid to Byron Bay, which is 73, and then it just on top, and it was just bricks on top of bricks on top of bricks of load. So then she was able to, we had to organise a boat to be able to support for that. Have to act as a house, act as a support crew, act as a direction beacon out in the water, so with the assets that they have on a yacht. But things.
How are you doing that? Like, how do you get someone's boat and someone's crew?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to get out in the community, and you probably have these frustrations at the moment, whether you get frustrated by this type of stuff or not. But you've got to meet people you've never met before. You've got to go to yacht clubs and cold call people. You've got to go and find out. And we found the whole way around that's how we got around was utilising the people, whether it was communities, whether it was yacht clubs, whether it was Facebook, whether it was marketplace, whether it was running into people on the beach, and that was,
There's a story in WA.
Yeah.
You ran into a couple of guys there.
Oh,
Yeah.
boys.
Can you tell us this story? This sounds great.
So
They're
one
the
of
best
the
humans ever.
one of the people we linked up with, which was really nice for you to hear, and I can't wait for you to meet this person because I'm not going to let you go past without meeting him. But
Yeah, sweet.
we come to we got to WA and we transitioned from our first boat to looking for our second, but we had a jet ski. So WA is a pretty protected coastline, so it was pretty flat, and they have what they call the doctor. The doctor wind picks up in the afternoon after lunch, and it kind of pushes from south to north and gets behind you, and you can get a nice little run up the coast. So we'd timed it really well that Bonnie would paddle in the flat with a jet ski in the morning, and then open up in the afternoon. Jet ski would fly along with her, and she'd chase the runs for hours. But this day we come to a really, really small place, and I'm talking like not even a pub. Most places have a pub. This place had a general store and a caravan park.
Where are you?
Seabird in WA.
So where is it?
So
What's the
it's
biggest
about-
town nearby?
It's about maybe 150 k's north of Perth. So you're not that far away from the city, but it's
So
when
not
it
as far as
starts to get
Geraldton or something like that.
nah. It's when it starts to get really quiet. That was one of the first places before we hit Gero, and then Gero after that. But we basically come to this place, and jet ski rolls in, back down on the beach. We put the jet ski on the trailer. We pull the jet ski up the top and up the truck at the car park, and we're packing up, getting Bond some food and whatnot. But from there we meet this guy. Now he drives down in this old Commodore. He's got an Akuba on, Emu Export beer can in his hand.
So like
We're
a
in
proper
WA
true blue
now.
Aussie.
Like this is as
Gold.
true blue Aussie as you can imagine. And he's kind of sniffing around, going, "What's going on here?" Like there's a car with stickers and whatnot. And he goes, "Hey, what's happening here?" And we were like, "Oh, this is Bonnie. She's paddling around Australia for Got You for Life, and we're supporting her." And he instantly was like just amazed and empowered and engaged with us to the point where he's like, I'm from up north in Karratha. You need to follow this line, and you need to watch out for crocodiles and get your drones in the air. And he had all this great information. So I said to the boys, "Hey, get this on film because this guy's nuts, and the country will want to see him." So fast forward 2 or 3 weeks, we're still jet skiing, and we get to a point knowing coming up in Exmouth, you've got to go across a bight over to Onslow, and it's a nice big open stretch of water, probably a bit too far for the jet ski, about 100 to 120 kilometres.
I think there's like a Shark Bay or a Shark
Yeah,
Island somewhere
Shark
there
Bay's
as well,
just
isn't it?
south, just up from there and south of there. But yeah, like we thought to ourselves, that guy we spoke to, he had a boat that he was speaking about that he did some fishing and whatnot with, and we should give him a call. And maybe he'd want to jump up and help us with that stretch and a little bit to get us up to Broome. It would have been 30 seconds maximum on the phone call, and he was like, "I'm in. I'm bringing my mate Ryan. We're in Karratha at the moment, which is 150 k's north. We'll be there, tomorrow afternoon, essentially."
How good.
So we got these guys, and they were on. They were charged on. They were organised. It was like a job had come for them. It was like a contract had come for them to
A calling.
get a job done.
It was a purpose.
But rewind, the day that we met him, he comes from a town 15. He lives in a caravan 15 kilometres away from the coast, and he was going to the beach that day. Really consider where his life was at from a mental point of view. And he usually turns right to go to this other town, Gilderton, and go and sit there and have a bit of a thought. But he actually, for the first time, turned left and came to Seabird because he said, I just felt like I needed to go and check Seabird out that day. And he ran into us that day.
Wow.
He helped us for 2 weeks. He's a gold miner. 3 to 4 months later, he finds some gold. He gets on a plane and he comes to the Gold Coast to see Bonnie cross the line for the finish,
Good.
which was really, really nice, really, really emotional. And Bonnie speaks about that in her book. But we actually just had them over for the book launch, so they are now a part of our family.
Yeah.
And it was the smallest part of the community that, you know, he had to make decision to turn left. He turned left and he met us and he opened himself up. Whether he knew that speaking to people at that time in his life was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, he did it. And it brought him on a journey of meeting us. So.
Yeah, I think that leans into like the serendipitous timing of the world. And it comes back to like the present moment. So two-pronged little just segue with this is you were talking about pseudo relationships with social media. And I do think it is ruining our interpersonal connections and relationships with, I just guess, the general broader community. And there's a real beauty in just going up to strangers and talking to them. And you never know where that might lead you, but also remaining in the present moment. I wanted to ask, like, throughout this journey, did you just have such immediate presence in whatever you were doing because it was purely out of, well, I mean, I know you were planning logistically, but at any given day, you were 100% focused on what you needed to do, right?
I had a foot in each camp. I had a foot in the camp of, Bonnie's got to get these Ks done today. We need to support her from a food, from a hydration, from a emotional performance state. Like, I had a foot in that camp because it's my background.
Yeah.
And I knew how close to failure she was. I knew how close in one moment, whether it would be a mental or a physical ailment, how close to failure. But I had to put one foot there and then one foot, 500 to 800 kilometres up the road, knowing what service stations, knowing what people were there, knowing who we had to pull from behind us. In WA, for example, we met a family to take us from Broome through the Kimberley up to Darwin. I had to grab them. I was halfway up the West Australian coast, which goes on forever, and I had to grab them from Fremantle to come past us to meet us in Broome. So my mind was in Freo, 2,000 kilometres behind me, to source us, a sense of moving forward 1,000 kilometres in front of us. So I had a foot in the performance camp and a foot in the camp of, getting us from behind to move forward for 2 months' time. Because if we got there and then we had to look for a boat in Broome, with no chance we would have got to Darwin. No chance at all. There's nothing there.
Did it give you like a sense of fulfillment though every single day?
Good question.
Maybe the wrong person to ask. Maybe if I asked
that's
Bonnie.
a good question.
I love his optimism.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because just to quickly preface that, I think something that's really important. I mentioned like existential crises before, and it's funny throughout this journey. I go through this roller coaster, but at the end of the day, once upon a time, I would sit back and go like, "What is this all? I don't really understand it. What am I doing? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that?" But I don't. Like, I literally sit in my tent, my little one-man tent, blow-up mattress, pillow, which all smells
Don't
intense.
open your windows on the Gold Coast at the moment. Wow.
But I sit there and I go, well, this is it. And I think it ties into, like I said, the serendipitous timing of the world. Like, I'm in a state of flow, and I do think a state of flow is super, super important to get into. And it's obviously not easy to get into a state of flow, but in this journey, it is a lot easier to lean into it. And I guess, like you're saying, you meet those people. I've met people not to that caliber yet, but I mean, we've met for a purpose. And I do believe that's constantly because I'm flowing where I need to flow. And I know that I'm at the stage of the journey where I'm in towns and I have that accessibility at the moment, and the logistics comes the further north I get, and then as soon as I hit across from Townsville. But
Enjoy.
Yeah, but something I really wanted to touch on, I think, is that fulfillment, and that's that state of just constantly being, in a flow with yourself.
Yeah, I think for Bonnie, probably.
Yeah.
She was knocking over the Ks that no one had ever done before in history, from a male or a female's perspective. She was doing something for the first time that from a performance level that I really question. I'm probably a little bit one-eyed, but I question whether anyone in the world has backed up and performed like that before from an endurance space for a longer period. With also being in the ocean and being, there's sailing and there's things like that, but there's to be in the ocean with the predators and with the storms and with everything like that. So I think for her, she was constantly achieving. I was probably a little bit in the fog of war. I was probably a little bit.
Were you on your own for a lot of time, mate?
I did. I had a crew member with me as well, he's actually about to go take my skills that I taught him into another little journey around Australia. But I was probably the only person who was making calls. He was driving and cooking and doing some stuff for us. But I was probably the decision maker. And back to the start, like I didn't have the template and I didn't know what was right. So I was just going off my gut a lot. I had to have too many hard conversations. I had to, on the phone to Greg, thinking I'm burning this relationship big time. And we can look back now and go, how great is this? But I'm calling him too many times, but I need him because Bonnie's saying to me, get body science shakes. I need body science shakes. Get them. However you need to get them, get them. I need them. So then I'm like,
you would have moved hell and high water to get them though, wouldn't you?
Oh, there's a bit of a funny story.
Yeah, so
They would have got them.
Yeah, so but at the time, Greg kind of didn't really.
I had no idea.
This guy's calling me give us a spell, mate. I can only imagine that was a thought. But I was trying to service Bon and then trying to follow through with what other options we had. So a great story that we got there, and it was by the time Bonnie was paddling in 45-degree heat and the water was 33 degrees in the water.
Wow, there's some hydration needed there.
So she only thing she could stomach was body science protein shakes. And that was the thing, getting her calories on board and the hydration on board. But the Gold Coast Suns played Hawthorn in a mid-year Darwin game and essentially got delivered to the Gold Coast Suns, and they all jumped on the plane with them and brought them to Darwin, and Bon went and spoke to them as we both met there at the same time, and they delivered the shake. So it was a really, really nice thing for the Gold Coast community.
From my perspective, I get the call, mate, it's got to be in Darwin tomorrow, I think it was, or the day after.
Days,
and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to our freight team. They're like, nah, nothing gets to Darwin that fast. I'm like, what the fuck
Gold
are we
Coast
going
Suns
to do?
going tomorrow. We know some people there.
And then I've gone, well, he's in AFL. I've gone, you ring him. He goes, I don't know. I've got other shit to do, Greg. I'm fucking doing this. I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Because he was dead set focused. I've never met so much focus, and it was very. You could use the word agile or panic driven. I'm not sure which one it was, but he was like, if we don't get this right. Because what leading back a bit, everyone forgets that coming round the bite and round there, Bonnie was doing 12-hour days and she couldn't eat. She had seasickness, so she had zero food. So she just had used everything internally. So and from a
could you keep shakes down, Manny?
We hadn't crossed that
during that period.
Path, yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was later on.
Yeah.
But from his perspective and performance side, he knew that she needed to get at least this in this period. So I ring the Suns up, and I didn't have a relationship with the Suns at the time, and I could not believe that they said, yes, we'll carry it up. You know what I mean? Like, the players carried the stuff up, and it was enough to get from Darwin round to the top of Queensland.
Yeah, Cairns. Yeah. Which, Weeper, Cape York, or Gove, Weeper, Cape York, you're not buying body science products. Like, you're not buying any products. You're buying fruit and vegetables at max and a bit of meat off the property. So, you can't get fuel there. Like, so you're not getting supplements and things in stores because there just isn't that access. So
you're not getting green shakes.
100%. So we,
you vegans are going to struggle.
Forever grateful of Greg being patient enough to answer.
No. That's, mate, I'm grateful for the people like the Suns who had no reason to say, yes, we'll carry this up.
Yeah.
And, it's a phone call to one of the commercial managers, I think it was. It might have been the football manager. I can't remember. And I'm really sad that I can't remember it right now. But it was something that truly blew me. And that's when I connected that day, when I heard him, because I'm like, you're an AFL, you ring him. And it was like I knew exactly
Your
what he said.
bucket would have been full then.
Oh,
mate.
mate, this is where I want to go with
how
that
much
is,
you
what was your mental health like during that? Like, seriously, how did you manage yourself? Like, your bucket's full type thing where you're going?
me
No.
or Matt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think like if you read, obviously you've read the book, so we went through obviously the logistics challenges, but obviously our relationship languished quite largely. So that was, you know, everything I'd found fulfillment and purpose in my relationship. First off, was taken away in a sense of we talk about love languages and things like that. Like I just didn't realise how much I depended on Bonnie, just with a shoulder to lean on, things to go back and forth with, or you know, just genuine presence. All of that got taken away, you know, for no reason, you know, no selfish reason from anyone else. It's just that was what happened. So that first was I remember writing about like I've lost my wife. Like that was week 3.
Wow.
So that's we're just out of Sydney.
With 40 weeks to go.
I've genuinely lost my wife. So I've like, you know,
That'd have been a tough time, mate.
oh, incredibly tough. And then seeing her go through the pain, and then, you know, for reading the book, like she speaks a fair bit about, you know, she had to stay mentally, you know, hard in the sense where she couldn't just grab me and open up and whatnot. It just wasn't it had no energy to. She was just, you know, drawn and spent all her tickets. So where I wanted to grab energy, I wanted to have connection, she was like, I can't, I've got nothing in me. I need to preserve whatever I've got. You know, she did days after days after days of no eating and trying to paddle, you know, more than the distance of paddle people before. But yeah, so there's a logistic fog of war, and then there's a relationship thing. So my mental health was definitely mental ill health for sure.
But I guess one of the things about it is that you've done a lot of stuff in this mental health space. Like I've been to a lot of the talks that you've organised about getting blokes together and talk about it. So you've got to have you'd have some of the tools. And were you aware enough in that fog of war to be able to use those tools that you know really well and to be able to actually put them into place?
Yeah, it's actually funny. The only people I could speak to were my mates who were veterans.
Okay.
My mates who had...
The war analogy runs pretty deep.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to spend a bit of time in Townsville, and I played local footy in the community, and a lot of the boys in the Defence Force were right at the time where they were going to Afghanistan. So I've kept those connections, and they were the boys I lent on the most because they love thinking under pressure. That's all they'd learned how to do, and even they've transitioned out of the army now, and they are the best people when shit's flying everywhere. They're the best people to talk to. So
they can keep their smart brains and their emotional brains together.
A lot of them told me to just. When I was speaking about my relationship, I was speaking about how stressed I was. That they were probably like probably weren't the shoulder, or they were more like, "Fuck, what are you talking about? Like, find solutions, move forward, because don't get lost in the emotion. You'll get there. Don't stress."
Yeah.
And that was the stuff that was really good.
I think one of the parts that really touched me on your and Bonnie's journey was when she was paddling the bite. And she's 500 k's out in the ocean. You can't even really talk to her. Helicopters can't get there. No one can get there. She's heading into WA, and you've got a border closure.
Yeah.
And it's not that actual part, because you obviously were just relentless and got through that, because I experienced it, so I can imagine what you were like. But what I'm talking about is when Bonnie actually landed, you weren't even allowed to touch her.
No. So, like, before she left the bite, so if you look at the country... for those who not sure what we're referring to with the bite, look at the country of Australia. You've got a chunk out of the bottom, the arc out of the bottom. They call that the Great Australian Bite, and there's one at the top, the Gulf of Carpentaria. So Bonnie essentially decided to make the choice to paddle from South Australia straight across.
That's the crow flies.
Fastest route.
I wish there were roads like that.
Oh, would it be nice?
I often think I'm bowing out so
I'm
much.
not sure she'd do it again.
Yeah. So we left at a place called Coffin Bay, which is lovely oysters.
Wow, what a great name to kick off from.
It's I only recently, after reading the book, got some confirmation on how she was feeling. But I essentially said goodbye to my wife there, thinking I might not see her again, because it is that bad of storms and weather and whatnot out there. Yeah, I could. She is genuinely in the danger zone. And I broke down. Like I tried to keep poker face. It was horrible. And she stayed poker and turned away and walked away. So that, for me, I was like, okay, she's in game mode. She's gone. Now I had to work with the WA government, the chief health officers, the WA police, and no one was on the same page. So there was a lot of stress in that. I stayed on the side of the road at the border at the border village halfway between South Australia on the Nullarbor, in a swag underneath the car waiting for, to get the exemptions to go across. And she didn't know any of that. So that was pretty stressful for anyone going through that. Might be stressful. But I also had a dot out in the ocean, which I saw the weather that dot was getting whacked with. And that was probably the worst thing. When I got over to WA, they said, hey, we just want to see someone do the lockdown. So you're it. She can, when she gets over there, we can send her to, to get tests and whatnot. She actually had that bad of experience across the bight where she lost 8 to 10 kilos, didn't eat for, most of the time. And she was going off almonds some days to, 15, 16 hours of paddling off in huge seas off 6 almonds. So, you can only imagine how you'd feel. And we got to the point where they were arriving in Esperance over in WA from that straight line. And she had to go to hospital. She had to paddle her way to hospital. But the police were like, you can't come within, meters of her because we still see her as someone who hasn't been through isolation and hasn't been...
Which is ludicrous.
500 k's out in the ocean.
500 k's out in the ocean on a kayak by yourself.
Yeah, so she went to hospital and, she was visibly ill, visibly rattled. And, speak about, I just wanted to see my wife after 2.5 weeks prior, I broke down and I got the same response, shut down, of shell of herself. And they threw her in an ambulance and off she went to hospital. So yeah, I still, and we never really got, you read in the book, we never really got that chance to debrief or take time for us or anything. So yeah, and it just compounded and compounded and compounded.
How are you feeling at the moment hearing all of these stories, Alex?
I got a bit emotional because seriously, emotional because when I'm doing it's a very different modality of sport, I guess. But so I'm doing it with a backpack. So the purpose behind the backpack, I know it may sound even more ludicrous, but it's to carry the burden of your own existence. And I like that message because I'm trying to teach people that you don't need external sources to find happiness or joy or whatever it is that you're trying to feel. It comes from you and you already have it. You just got to look inwards and do the actual work. It may be hard, unglamorous work, but it's the work that I think is so pivotal in someone's mind and psyche to turn it around. And it's difficult because, from the word go, it's a 20 kilo pack, and for the first 100 meters or a kilometer or 10 kilometers, if anyone's worked with 20 kilos, it's not heavy, but day in, day out, I put this thing on and it's immediate compression on my feet, and takes me about an hour to even be able to walk properly. I'm seriously walking on almost stump feeling feet. So it's definitely a broken sense of self from the very word go. And I'll be walking and then that's when the emotions come. But even when people come and visit me, I know kind of what you're saying, not to the extent because I haven't reached the really tough bit yet, but my partner came and visited me, my sister has come and visited me, and they're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go walk around? I'm like, I don't want to move. I just want to sit and just maybe have a conversation, but that's really much it. And it's a weird place to be in because you're just pushing yourself, and like you said, she was pushing herself to the nth degree. There's sometimes if I was in a national park, I tried to hug the coast all the way up to here, which I pretty much managed to do. It just meant food wasn't necessarily as available. So my diet at the moment is medjool dates, nuts and seeds, which isn't an elaborate diet, but it's efficiency of what I can carry. And so, yeah, it's difficult, but the emotions are rife. And I think that encapsulates it really. It's just raw emotion, and you can't be the person you want to be in front of those people. But you've got a purpose to what you're doing.
I think if you just remove it, I think along, we could speak about advice after. And I've got a bit of a list there, mate. After
yeah, expect some phone calls maybe because logistics, like I said, are not my strong point.
There's no perfect way. I think, if you just stay agile and there's essentially you're making your template and from talking to family or talking to people. I think if Bonnie and I could go back in time, we knew it was going to get a bit different, a bit weird, but just to know that someone's presence, even without talking or communicating, someone's presence might be all you need. So that could be the advice from your family.
Yeah, massively. And then it comes back into just people in general. Like you said, the relationships on social media aren't always deep, but it's just about finding those strong connections that you can actually have positive influences from and actually gain something. Well, not gain something, but just be able to sit in the space without any judgment.
And it's pretty important that particularly with mental health stuff, just to have that non-judgment, to be able to sort of, tell your story and have someone that listens with an empathetic ear and sort of not necessarily having to give any advice, just to be able to sit there and say it.
You don't need to give advice. Can you hear me now? That's a big thing, is you don't need to give the advice, isn't it, Luke? Like that's.
I think we jump to tell pretty much. We jump to this conversation feels uncomfortable. I'm going to see if I can draw on something I can tell them what to do.
Fix.
And I don't think we have to fix it. I think sometimes just to stop and listen for a little while is probably not a bad strategy. And to actually, there's a circle of gratitude sometimes when someone says thank you, to be able to accept the thank you, or someone asks a question, to be able to not necessarily have to jump straight to fix the discomfort with advice, to be able to just sit with it for a little while. I think that's something I think you're going to be very good at.
Yeah, nice. Look, I've got to wrap this up, guys. Alex has left his tent outside at my place, and I'm probably getting some text messages now to move it. It's rank, and it's only on the beginning of its tour too, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah,
Alex, if people want to find you, follow you, help you, you've got a GoFundMe page. How do they find you?
Yeah, so essentially you can look up on Facebook or Instagram, Strides Against Suicide. My Instagram is still under the handle Alexander_Glover, but the name you can just type in Strides Against Suicide. There is a GoFundMe. It's set up to help cover emergencies if emergencies come up, to help me continue the journey and fulfill the purpose, but also people along the way that I might meet. If they need help, I want to be able to offer that help in terms of getting them into a mental health facility if that is the help that they need. And also when I get home, I want to find a place that can further fund like OCD medical research for, I guess, mental health practitioners. So that's essentially what the funds are for. But to support me as well, just come out and say g'day. And if you're in the top sections in isolated areas and you have a vehicle that can drop me water or something, that would also be.
Yeah, we're going to see if the freight company we work with can get some water drops to you.
Yeah.
What's can you hit us with your Instagram account again?
Strides Against Suicide.
Yeah, nice. And Matt, your girl's book, The Girl Who Touched the Stars, how's that going?
Yeah, fantastic. It's been really nice to hear the wider community. You probably experience people reach out and say, hey, I had this time or I felt this. I think the beauty about this is Bon being so raw and so open with her words that people can feel safe to reach out to tell their story. And I think there's a nice little inspiring part. Maybe the audio book might get you through a couple of 8 hours of walking, mate. But there's
just play it on 0.5 speed,
Yeah.
so it just goes really, really long.
Savouring.
So that's probably been the best thing about it. Just some of the really nice feedback from people from the wider community. But hey, we're still pushing to promote it and still pushing to inspire as many people who purchase as well.
And how do people catch up with you, man, if they want to do something like the Bonds and the Alexes of the world?
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram at Matty Palmer, so that's probably a really nice place to ask any questions. I feel like society's in the time of challenges and discovery. I'd love to help people as much as I could with what I've learnt over the time. So.
And what was your men's group that you were running before you went off on a 2-year tour?
So Mind Pack was our community men's engagement group. So essentially people from all over different places usually come to the Gold Coast without a sense of mateship or connection or community. So we're still doing some other little one-on-one bits and pieces. So we'd love to go and check that out and.
And Gus from Gotcha for Life has reached out to Alex actually to have a chat. So we might make him do that while you two are together today, like reconnect there, because he's been off at the fairies walking by himself for a while.
Brilliant. Yeah.
It's time to get a little real. We had a real chat this morning. We've had some big real chats. He's going into Dangerland. That's why I wanted you to come in today and had this chat, but I think after this,
Yeah, he actually chucked you under the bus and said
you
you
need to
actually
give
gonna be
him
my
some
support
real
group.
life. Just slap him in the corner for a little bit and get him ready for what's coming up.
Love it.
Greg
love
has
it.
a wonderful way of putting his arm around you and kicking you up the arse at the
Oh,
same
it's
time.
great.
It's
It's
a
welcome.
skill that is just a contortionist dream.
Yeah. But you know you can trust it because it's raw and real.
Exactly.
And my mate Lukey wrote Stress Teflon and a whole lot of other books. You've 3 deep now? 4
Yep.
deep.
Into number 4,
And how do people find you, Luke?
Luke_curious.
Because that's the name of your latest book,
Yep, Curious Habits.
Curious Habits. So
Mm.
there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of goodwill in this room right now, and I'm really fortunate to have sat with you 3 and talked about this, and my little vegan mate in the middle.
Can't wait to hear the stories. at the end of
I
it.
feel like extra little right now because
Yeah.
I've lost so much weight already. I'm
Yeah.
kind of just like, hey, dads. Like, thanks for hanging out. It's like, bring your dads to school day. It's like, sweet, let's go.
Awesome.
You've aged 15 years since I saw you.
Yeah,
so
no, I know.
exactly.
Yeah.
But keep doing things for other people. It's where it's at.
Yeah.
And you
that's
3
real-
are definitely people that do that.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.